we don't want, and let's be really vocal on this one, we don't want 1,000 advisors. We actually don't want 200 or 300 advisors. Numbers aren't our big thing. What we want is advisors that make a difference for their clients. And on the bell curve of life, what we've found is that there's very few that are up at that upper echelon that are actually either incredibly gifted in terms of their market knowledge and the value they can create for the clients, the care that they can show clients and the rest of it. We wanted to appeal to that group, or they're the people we wanted to work with. And then there's a great majority that are sort of form the rump of the industry, and they're loyal citizens and they do great jobs for clients, but they're not at the cutting edge, and we wanted to work more at that end. And then there's this nebulous group down the other end that in our opinion they're getting forced out of the industry because they don't want to reskill, or they don't want to change, or what they're offering isn't right for the customer anymore. And we think that's great. We don't want to be a part of that. The other thing we found was that, in the scans, and if you do the updates today, there's 20-odd thousand advisors in the industry, 4,000 licensees. 80% of advisors are controlled by 20% of the licensees, which are controlled in the main by institutions. And we just went, well, if we've got a disillusionment with these institutions, and Mark's consulting work had identified the same thing, then maybe they're the people we want to appeal to. So the advisors looking after, if you like, more affluent clients who are looking for more holistic financial planning opportunities or estate planning on the risk side opportunities, and advisors that in the main don't want to do what an institution tells them to do. Now, that's not to say there's not a place for those people. There's obviously a very big place for them. It just wasn't in our place.
And that was, notwithstanding you've got advisors, what were the key components that we wanted to build the Madison offer around? And that was compliance. So number one was compliance. You're only as good as the worst person in your group, and we wanted to ensure that we didn't have that risk of bringing down a good business that was built. So we had to focus on that, but also we wanted to change the culture of compliance, because compliance in the past had been seen as an anchor, something that advisors hated. We wanted to have it built bred in them and seen to be something that they could work with to actually create a more valuable business for themselves. The other thing that I think that we identified was obviously a platform, that we wanted to not only find a platform but own a platform and actually lead the market in building and delivering to our advisors something that allowed them to differentiate their advice and do more holistic advice. That notwithstanding advisors, I think sometimes might like to play around and be the investment manager. Fundamentally, they shouldn't be. They can spend a lot of their time there, and at some point they'll fail. All investment managers fail, so that we'd set something up whereby if that failure took place, it could, the blame could be laid, and you'd bring in someone else to replace that, and the advisor's not wearing the brunt of that investment failure, and allowed the advisor to focus more around strategic advice and/or considering other parts of the advice chain. Facilitate and drive knowledge share, which is another big one, because most other groups that we knew, they all competed against each other, and a lot of people had good ideas, but they weren't willing to share. And, Tony, I think every time will challenge the group. I give you an idea and you give me an idea, and we trade that. So we've developed more. But we certainly had made a commitment to our business partners and our board that we can't afford to scrimp on the costs and the resources around compliance and research, and these are the things that you've got to hang your hat with good advice on. There were other things that we've developed out that have fallen out of that, such as proactive portfolios, first multi-asset, multi-sector SMA in the marketplace as Lonsec rated. Now, it's amazing that when we look back, we can go, have some of these things been as successful as what they could have been? And it's like, no, they haven't. But it's actually because we're poor at marketing versus necessarily poor at the solution.